It's the duality. It's the duality of the Gemini that's f***ing me up right now, but in a good way, because I am realizing how much of a hypocrite I've been, how much I've contradicted myself, where just being in spaces, in so many different spaces these past few days alone, like 3 different, maybe even more. No, I've been in more than 3 spaces. Again, Gemini Mars. No, because I'm not suggesting people do this. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just telling you what the happened to me and why I feel like this and why I want to share this revelatory moment. Being in multiple spaces these past couple of days have allowed me to witness how other people hold space for people that they know and don't know, that they've never met. Just being able to witness that, and also allowing myself to be held in these spaces and allowing more of myself to come into these spaces. The way I want to like express and share and show and like maybe even kind of prove a little bit, which I'm kind of like I need to be wary of, because I'm like, who are you trying to get validation from, sis? Like, you don't gotta prove nothing. But it's like, I just want to share this one experience because I'm like, it's showing me what's happening. It's like a visual representation of what is happening to me at this moment in time, and like how this whole transformative process that I'm going through, which is really not a transformative process at all, even though it is, like, it does feel like my Phoenix era, and I do feel like I'm being rebirthed, but at the same time, it's like a rebirth back to self. It's like a rebirth back to who I've always been and who I've never felt safe enough to be. And I realized like that safety didn't really have much to do with me. That safety was outside of me. That safety was me looking to others to make me feel safe. And that's not possible. It's just not possible. Like, even the best person at holding space and making you feel safe is not going to make you feel as safe as you can make yourself feel safe. There was a guided meditation that I was present for, and I met my higher self and I melted into her. Me, my current self, melted into her. When I melted into her, I could still see me because she was transparent. That is how she manifested. I could see through her, even though she had a color, she had a hue, but I could see through her and I could see myself in her, and I felt so safe to do that. And at the same time, she pulled me out of her, approvingly, lovingly, and let me know it is okay for me to be separate, because that is a journey that I chose. And as a parting gift, she allowed part of herself, like, I want to say peace, but the way that she manifested, it was not like pieces. It was more like she was fluid. And so there was like a fluid, liquid light that kind of pulled off of her onto me and like on my arm and my head. And as I was separated from her, and as I came back to my body, I knew there was part of her that was with me. My favorite affirmation from that meditation I came away with was, my light is my armor. Before being in that space, I was talking about clothing as armor. I was booked for a last minute shoot as a fashion stylist. I don't do that anymore. They didn't find me from my page. It was word of mouth. And they found my page, I guess from the name that I used to go by, that one of the models told them that they worked with. And it was a shoot that I literally just mentioned on one of my other, the past lives. I just can't understand people that don't see, one, life is magic, two, we live in a matrix and everything is connected, but also you have to be open to that kind of reality meeting you where you're at. Like, you have to be open to it. I remember this time last year, and actually before this time last year, I was saying I want to live a magical life. That is what I said, and that is what I'm doing. The shoot I was booked for, the inspiration was clothing as armor. And just think about that, like, me separating from my higher self, that literally was clothed in light and appeared as holographic liquid light. For me to melt into them and then separate and still have liquid light melted onto me, it felt like light armor. Back to the spaces I've been in, and space being held for me. I've been hyper aware lately, and I felt a bit insecure about my ability to hold space, because I realized I've been learning just how unintentional and how accidental I've been operating as a spiritual being. Like, I've just been floating through life, fully open and fully absorbent of every environment and every space that I've been in. So I've been actively trying to undo that and be intentional about how I'm showing up and show up purposefully. So anyway, yeah, I just felt really insecure about myself showing up with my spiritual gifts and just being in the fullness of them. Because also, I don't know if you know, but when you say to yourself in more than one way, because sometimes you can activate things just by saying it, but other times you have to do things. You have to take an inspired action for your body to trust you and be like, okay, you mean this. So I did both. And I basically said to my body that it is okay, it is safe to show up in your full strength. Wow, I'm so glad my body is smarter than me. Because I know I'm not even showing up in my full strength. And I'm like, whoa, chill, hold on, bro. Like, fam, calm down, chill out. It's a bit much. It knew I could not handle whatever I'm holding, and I'm still aware of just how much I'm holding. But anyway, I became insecure about that, and I became hyper aware that when I am emotionally affected in a way that I'm like emotionally burdened. When I'm emotionally burdened, I have much less control over how I show up and what I do with these emotions. And I'm learning more than the majority of the time these emotions aren't even mine. They aren't fully mine. They're mine magnified. So now I have to learn the difference between my emotions and others' absorbed emotions. But I became hyper aware, and I was just like, humans are all and fully human. No matter how much you want to reject that from being true. But the point of me saying this is that humans are both and. Humans have light and darkness within them. Humans are dense, 3D. Like, they're spiritual beings, right? So we have all of these parts that make us up. And when we meet each other, when I meet people and I expect them to show up in their light alone, I should never do that. I do it, and I can be expected to do it. Like a human, you're human, you will do it. But what I'm saying is I'm becoming hyper aware of how I have held people to standards that were not fair, and I would only notice it once it was reflected back at me. When I was held to a standard and I looked at the standard I was being held to and asked myself, why am I being held to this standard? Because I only ever asked to be myself. I only asked to show up as me. So when I'm being held to a standard where I'm like, the church definition of holy is not what I ever want to be. Maybe I've said it, but I denounce that. I don't want to be that. I want to be whole. A whole being, not holy with the W missing, because what is that? Like, separate, set apart. Okay, we're not gonna do that. Obviously, there's a lot of religious trauma still. Yeah, but I'm like, I'll process that on my own. But what I wanted to express was like, the duality of Gemini is coming through heavy for me. And it's really like busting open my belief system when it comes to myself first as a human, and then humanity as a reflection of me, and me as a reflection of humanity. There is a very amazing human. Again, another person I was able to be in space with. She inspired me from her life because there was a part of her lineage that she had to come to terms with, and she got to experience through the eyes of this person in her ancestry. And her experience just inspired me because I have been wanting to go deeper with my ancestry, and I've been having an interesting time lately because I guess I recently found out, like, my grandmother, maternal grandmother, I thought she was Trini to the bone. I thought she was Trini to the bone. Like, I really did. She was born there. I thought her family was from there. Come to find out, it's not. Her family's from Grenada. What? So only she and her siblings were born in Trinidad. They are the Trinis, but blood and heritage wise, they're Grenadian. And I don't know where else after that, you know? I know on her father's side, there is South Asian descent, but I don't know much else. And that's kind of been weighing on me because I've wanted to know, because I'm thinking, okay, like, I'm brown like this, so what part of Africa are we from? That's what I used to think, right? And then I started learning about Turtle Island, and I was like, I'm very, like, conscious that it's a small possibility, but you never freaking know, because everyone migrated, like, after one generation, it seems. It really does seem. Except for, like, my parents. But who knows? Maybe I will. Anyway, so that's just kind of been on the back of my mind, where it's like, okay, well, so where were we from? What would we do? And I already thought, like, okay, it's got to be Africa, but where? But now I'm like, does it have to be Africa? Really, where? Like, I don't know. We don't know. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, for me, the less I know about it, it's like the more the awareness of, I don't know these people. And generational trauma is a thing. I have no real idea where they came from, what they went through, and what they've done. And the more conscious I'm becoming of myself and my gifts, the more conscious I am that these gifts didn't come from nowhere. Like, they are also inherited generationally, as well as the trauma. The trauma and the joy come hand in hand. And I'm hyper aware that part of my journey here on this earth plane is to transmute a lot of that generational trauma and to use these generational gifts that have been denounced because we grew up religious. I look at my living and deceased ancestors and how gifted they are and were, and did not want to claim it, and how they hid it and dimmed it, and, you know, just did not allow it to be its full expression. And it just makes me very aware that all of that is in me, and I am not willing to dim that. Not anymore. I'm not willing to hide that. Not anymore. I am wanting to fully express and to live in that full expression of these gifts and transmute this trauma into medicine. And it's like the realization that I'm having now, it's like it is happening. It is happening now. It is happening now. My ancestry holds my magic. That's where my magic comes from. That's where a lot of my magic comes from. If there is magic that I came in with, it's coming down that, like, pipeline. And so I've just been very conscious of ancestry while being a magical being that I've always felt that I was. And yeah, just all of the things that are making me reflect on how I've held space and my ability to hold space and the way that I think, my beliefs, my belief system when it comes to good and bad and evil, and, you know, my moral compass and all of these things. It's so, like, hard for me to say it, but it's not, because it's like, it's really easy to say, but it's like, I'm holding back. I feel the resistance in my chest. I feel it. Where it's like, I don't want to say it doesn't matter. Like, I don't want to say that. But when I say that, what I mean is, there are people who have done wrong by me. Well, now, yeah, definitely. But I mean, like, as a kid. There are people who have done wrong by me as a kid, as a child. And every time I try to process it, this happens. And I won't let myself, because one, I don't want to dissociate, but two, I don't want to relive it. But I know that the more I talk about it, the more that will happen and will allow me to get through it. So I'm starting to talk about it. And in this moment, I'm having a time, because the both and is existing, where I'm coming to this part of myself, or this realization within myself that I want to take accountability. And the only way for me to do that, it seems, is for me to realize that the people who have done wrong by me were operating from a certain place and state. And that makes it hard for me, the part of me that wants to blame them and probably feels like I deserve revenge, or I deserve compensation, reparation, whatever, you know, justice. Like, what is the justice here? Where's the justice? And I'm having to meet that part of myself with, do you care more about justice than you care about healing, and then you care about being better and being well? Because what I'm starting to, like, ask myself is, can both things exist within me? Can the hunger and need for justice, which I call justice, but if I step out of myself and I look at it, I'm like, is this revenge? Is what I'm doing out of my idea of vengeance and revenge? Or is it out of my best interest? And is it me establishing boundaries? And is it me stepping into my power? And is it me making decisions, wise decisions for myself and based on my intuition and my wellness? What am I doing? That's what I have to ask myself, because what I've learned for myself is I don't feel better when I, like, act out of vengeance and revenge. I don't feel better. I do appreciate when I get to witness justice firsthand, and I call it justice then. I've seen it in my own life that what I need to do is remove myself and live my best life. And that is the best vengeance for me. I don't know. There's just something that I bring to people's lives, and they always show me. They always show me how I've improved or bettered or lightened their life. That when I remove myself, it does seem like a punishment. And sometimes, like, you know, it's to the point where, like, I don't even sometimes want to do that. I don't want to remove myself, because I feel like people will take that as me punishing them. And it's like, because I know there's something you can't get from me anymore that you apparently couldn't get from anybody else, or you didn't like it as well from them. I don't know, whatever the case is. But I've seen it time and time again where people were so upset with me for disappearing, but I needed to, because you were not treating me correct or right. And I didn't disappear because I wanted to. It happened. It had to happen. Like, I was pulled away, you know, like this happened because I was not doing right by me, nor was I doing right by you by allowing you to continue to siphon off of me. And so, like, I'm coming to this point where I'm being asked, by, I want to say, the universe literally is asking me, have you learned your lesson, or do I still have to pull you away from people? Can you step away when you still have the power to make the decision, or do I have to do something to force you away from people? And I'm like, is my absence of presence, is it a consequence? But all of these things I'm asking myself while I'm just thinking, like, how am I looking at them, and where have I been expecting them to meet me? Have I been consciously intaking where they're at and where they can meet me? And so now I'm starting to like reflect on every time someone has called me extra, called me too much, said whatever, like criticized how I showed up. Every time some emotional, sensitive, they're gonna call you what they see you, and that's them. That's their interpretation, their perspective. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what you are. Now, I am sensitive and I am emotional and I am human and I own it. I am owning all the parts of me that are fully human. So every time, more and more now, when someone hints at or calls me emotional or sensitive or whatever, I'm just hearing, you're superhuman. And I'm like, yeah, I am. You should try it sometime. I've met people like that were somehow triggered by the access to all of my emotions I have. And again, most of the time, they don't even be my emotion. And so in the live that I was mentioning earlier, the topic was soul retrieval and power retrieval, and soul loss and power loss. And these questions that started coming to my mind, it started to make me reflect about the spaces I've been in and the people I've been around in every way, shape, and form, like intentionally, unintentionally, if I can help it, and I can't really help it. And how they've met me, because I can do something about how I meet them, but how do I want to do something about how I meet them? I don't want to meet them from a reaction. I want to meet them from a response. And so I'm starting to reflect on how people have been meeting me. They're meeting me from a place of like power loss, like where their power is not currently with them and they don't currently have it. And they're showing it to me. And like a big thing that has been coming up for me, what happens when you do not take accountability for your life and your circumstances? You are powerless. You give in to powerlessness and you are a victim. No matter how strong of a victim you are a victim. And it's such a wild thing to witness, because it's like you could be watching the strongest, most powerful person that you could perceive, but if you really like dig deeper and you look at how they operate in their life, and it's like the dichotomy it's just like, oh my God, the Gemini twins, like, you know, the both and it's amazing. How is that possible? But it just reflects the power that it's like people can even perceive. People can perceive power as well as the loss of it or the unclaiming of it. You need to reclaim your power, because it's like, I don't know, if you're a really powerful person, I feel like people can tell. I don't know how they could tell, why they could tell, but they can tell. And it's like, you are not itchy, but that's how I think about it. It's like uncomfortable. It's like being around someone that makes you itch, or being somewhere that makes, like wearing itchy clothes. It just makes you just keep fidgeting, because you're like, why are you acting like that? You know, all you have to do is stand up for yourself. Because when I was young and I felt like I had no power because people kept taking it from me, that's what happened to you. And that's why you're acting like this. So that's why now that you're a full grown adult and you can take accountability for everything that's happening in your life, you won't, because you think you can't, because you were told you can't as a child. So all of that is like, and I'm like, oh. So exactly where and how am I not taking accountability for the life that I'm living in, the circumstances I'm in, and how I'm meeting people and how I'm holding space for people? Because again, like I said, I don't actively hold space. I just come in and absorb everything. And it's like, sometimes that's good because, or sometimes that feels good to people, because if they are holding on to things that they don't want to hold on to, I take it for them and they feel great. But then it's not mine to take. And when it's too much and I want to give it back to you, you mad at me. Oh yeah, they mad at you because you took it. You took they mess. And now you want to give it back to them? Now you want to reflect it back at them? Now you want to throw their back at them? I wouldn't like that either. Because who asked you to take it in the first place, right? Well, so it's like every way that I react to someone, or I want to react to someone, I'm starting to look and reflect and react to myself. Not first. We're not there yet. We're getting there. But I don't know. It's just like, it's hitting different. Like, I already heard this lesson, but I haven't felt it like this. It also has me very aware, like hyper aware of all the times I've betrayed myself and did the same thing. Like, held myself down and back and shushed myself and didn't listen to what my body was saying, my intuition, my knowing, all of the warning signs that I was giving myself. I was betraying it for something else, something that I thought was more valuable, because I thought it was limited and scarce, when in reality the truth of the matter is abundance is all around and it's free. It really is. Like, I was operating out of a scarcity mindset with being accepted, like I did not feel like I could be accepted for who I was anywhere else, because I had not experienced it anywhere else. But also, I didn't show up like this. So I started to show up as myself more and more, and like release more and more layers and call myself Adjanaye. And that's a big ass deal, because there's still people in my life who are calling me Jane. I'm like, I am not that girl anymore. I am different. I am me. And I'm becoming more and more me. And I have to make space for myself. I have to allow myself to take up space. I have to stop criticizing myself for how I show up. Like, I need to let myself be. I need to learn to stand up for me as I am. I need to learn not to take people so personally and seriously and close to the heart. Like, I feel so deeply that when I'm criticized, it's like, it does feel like rejection. But right now I'm just like, okay, I'm uncomfortable. And I don't feel like I can grow here. So I'm just gonna back up and expand a bit more, let other things come into my awareness so that I can reflect and see why this happened. It's like, I want to blame somebody, and it's like, I can't find a person to blame. And it's like, well, maybe because there's nobody to blame, sis. It's like, maybe you just need to take accountability for how you showed up. And do you want to continue to show up like that? Well, then show up like that. If you don't, then don't. And practice to show up differently or more you. And there's a part of me that is still very guarded and armored, where I will be very careful about how I'm showing up vulnerably. I want to show up vulnerably out of wisdom and experience rather than fear and memory. The way that people in my family have shown up and claimed space, like, you don't get to show up like that. You don't get to tell me no. You don't get to be sovereign because you're a child, because that's how they were treated. And I'm starting to learn what it looks like in my body to have compassion for that, because I feel like I've always had compassion for it and tried to hide it and erase it and get rid of it, because I felt like if I have compassion for this, then I'm agreeing with it, and I'm saying it's okay, and that I deserved to be treated like that. Like, I have the capacity to hold space for empathy and disagreements at the same time, in the same breath. I can empathize with someone and disagree with them. That is okay. I can do that. It is fair. I am human. I am simply complex and uniquely the same. Humanity. We can do that. We can be that. We can hold space if you want to. And you can practice that, because obviously, and this is a new realization, so that means like I gotta practice that. I still gotta integrate it. Now, I'm not gonna do that automatically. And there's still ways where I show up and I'm like, I would like a better way to show up for this person, and not for them, for me. You know, I would like a better way to show up in space with this person for me, where I don't have to just shut down or be quiet or not share, because that's hurting me maybe as much or more than it's hurting them. You know, like, I understand that my presence is a blessing, and that the way that I express, it is useful. Like, I know this now. I have confirmed this now for myself, that when I show up and I am actually vulnerable, that people are changed. I'm hearing myself and I'm like a part of me is like, whoa, that was really arrogant. And then the part of me is like, yeah, girl, you worth it. Talk about it. I've confirmed it. I know this. I have been told. It's been affirmed. So I can say it. It's okay. And what is now the problem for me is when I put up a boundary with a person, am I now punishing myself because they're there? Am I putting up a boundary and I'm now, because I'm putting up a boundary to not engage with them, and I have taken that as a full stop of expression of myself. And it's like, now I'm showing up and I'm not showing up as myself. I'm showing up as blank, as nothingness. So you can't see me. Gray wall. And it's like, I don't like that. I'm coming to the conclusion, I don't like that. I feel punished. Part of me feels punished because I cannot just be my happy self, because it's somehow triggering to you, to this person, to this, you know, like whatever. And if I'm understanding that I can have empathy for them and still yet disagree with them, that means that I can show up however the I want and just hold the boundary of protecting my energy. I mean, in this day and age, if you assault me, there's going to be repercussions, you know? So like, you cannot just boldface assault me because you want to. I mean, you could try, but there's gonna be consequences. So like, what I'm trying to say is my body should not feel so unsafe. Like, I know why it does, but I don't have to feel so unsafe anymore, where it's like I cannot engage at all with these people. Like, no, none. They can hurt me, they can physically harm me. Yes, they can. But there will be a consequence. There will be. I don't care what you say. There will be a consequence. And I do not have to act on revenge. I don't have to do it. There will be one, though. And I know that. That's where I'm at. So, if that's a fact and that's the truth, then I should be free. Oh my gosh. I love this. This is like so aligned. I love this. I should be free to show up in my full expression, however that is. And me as a Sag moon, that means happy. Like, girl, I just want to be happy. I just want to be singing. I just want to be loud. I just want to be laughing and smiling, and I just want to enjoy my existence. Why just because you grumpy and you mad or you triggered or you upset or blah blah blah, I gotta match that? I don't want to match that no more. Like, I don't want to do it. I'm saying that out loud to I'm saying that to myself as much as I'm saying it. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to match grumpy people's energy. I don't care. I don't care if you're if you're criticizing me, if you're upset with me, if you're disappointed with me. That's fine. You can be that. That's okay. I can still meet you like me. I don't gotta match that. I release it. Okay, I'm free. I don't gotta match that no more. We don't gotta match that no more. It's unnecessary. Like, I understand that it protected me. I understand that it was like a way to keep myself safe. I don't know if I fully understand how. I think I just learned that somehow. I think I just learned that. Maybe it was like, maybe this is how humans act. Okay, this is humanity. Okay, good. So I'll do that. I don't gotta do that no more. We don't gotta do that no more. We're elevated human. We are full, complex, whole being. I can just be me as I show up in space with you, you know? What a relief. My gosh, thank you so much for holding space. So yeah, two things can exist. Two things can be true. Your truth, my truth, the truth, it's all truth. There is, like the way I'm seeing it now, and this is just how I'm holding space for this concept in my human form right now. There is no truth but the absolute truth, and we will never know the absolute truth unless we are one. We are all part of one source. Like, unless we come back consciously, actively, all together into one source, we will not know the full, complete truth. This is what helps me understand now that it's okay to release, that there are multiple truths, that people can have their own truth, that I am allotted my own truth. I'm happy for you and me. I'm happy that both truths exist for us, and we can live our lives and express our being and be okay with that. I'm okay with witnessing or coming to the awareness of when I'm out of alignment with myself, and just opening up my arms to come back into alignment with me. Oh, earlier I mentioned like my experience with my higher self, and it's just like come back in alignment with us, with myself, with me, with you. Come back in alignment and just melt into me, melt into myself, and then separate myself so I can witness myself from the perspective of another version of myself. Like, oh my God. Anyway, okay. Yeah, thank you for holding space with me. This has been very healing. I'm able to come into gratefulness. Like, I don't know if I'm fully there with everything, but I'm coming into gratefulness for a lot of the experiences I've had. And soon, when I'm able to process all of them, because some of them I can't even remember. Some of them my brain won't let me remember. But when I'm able to, process all of them, I'm excited to be able to say I'm grateful for everything, all the experiences. That's where I want to be. And I'm not rushing myself to be there either, because, ciao, this was a lot. Okay, I want to go now. Bye.